Hey there, doing another video on protein that I'm going to link back to my review of the EAS protein that I use. I hinted in the video and didn't really expand on it about how much protein do you really need. And I know there's a lot of people out there that like to sell these ebooks, these PDFs for $20, $30, $40 a pop. I just want to give advice. I really am not interested in making money from it. I've tried lots of things over the years. Some things have worked, some things haven't. And I really want to provide some good information on my experience. And maybe if you're like me, um, some of these things might actually work out for you. So there's a big question is how much protein do I really need? And what I've found, and I've read all of the stuff out there about, you know, half a gram per pound of body weight. Then I've heard, a gram per pound of body weight. Then I've heard, it's really the lean muscle mass you need to worry about maintaining. So really, it should be a gram per lean per pound of lean muscle mass. It's very confusing. So what it comes down to is if you look at the basic adage of calories in, calories out, at kind of a very, very high level, calories in, calories out. We all need a certain amount of calories per day. It really varies. I think it varies on your height, your weight. I think maybe even your genetics. It varies on your activity. If you're a very highly active individual, if you're a construction worker, if you're a very physical person where you're always out doing something, then I think you could take in more calories per day because you're going to burn them off. You need that energy. If there's someone like myself, I sit behind a desk all day long. I'm a software developer. Um, I don't need as many calories. And what's happened is I've taken in more than I need, so I've gained weight. It also depends on what you eat. There is a difference. I think it's, from a high level perspective, calories in, calories out. If you consume more than you need, you'll store fuel, you'll store fat. If you take in less than you need, then you could possibly lose fat, and somewhere in the middle, you end up in kind of the maintenance mode. And I'm actually referring to, and I say store fat and store fuel, I'm not talking about water weight. Water weight fluctuates depending on, how much water you're drinking, the types of food you're taking in, your sodium intake, and all these other things. So really, I look at things from a perspective of calories in, calories out. So if you start to break that down, well, what is a calorie? Okay, well, calorie is how we measure the way food is burned. And then I start looking next at macronutrients. So your macronutrients are your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats. And so if you look at those, I've found myself, I don't have a very good reaction to carbohydrates. I think that's why I've gained a lot of weight. I've went low carb and lost weight. I went back on carbs and gained weight, and I still eat very clean. I don't eat a lot of refined carbs. I'm not a real big fan of ice cream. I do like ice cream, but I don't eat it all the time. I'll have candy very rarely, and I just notice I have what I call an adverse reaction to carbohydrates. But you do need them. I mean, you do need a certain amount of carbs in your diet because that is where muscle glycogen comes from and liver glycogen. And then you've got your proteins. That's your primarily your animal-based proteins. It's your meats. Obviously, you've got your dairy-based proteins, and even vegetables have proteins. Grains, quinoa, from what I understand, is really the only grain or non-animal protein source that actually has all 8 essential amino acids. So that's so we'll get to the protein topic after I talk a little bit about fats. Then you've got fats, and so that's your macronutrients, your carbs, your proteins, and your fats. And obviously, this video is focusing on the protein portion of that equation. How much do you really need? Well, you've got to eat, depending on your motivation. You might be maintaining your weight. You may be trying to lose weight. For all I know, you may be trying to gain weight. There's also people that are on the other side of the spectrum. Some people actually feel that they need to gain some weight. Could be for medical reasons. Their doctor may have recommended it. They may be trying to pack on some muscle. They may be the ectomorph type. I'm more of an endomorph. And I really feel from what I've experienced that the ectomorph's probably a more carb-oriented type, if you believe in that sort of metabolic type, and the endomorphs are probably more on the protein side of things, and your mesomorphs are somewhere in between. They can eat a good balance of carbs and proteins, and do fine. Not really gain weight from it. So you've got to eat. And when I say that, if you lower your carbs, you've got to compensate because you have to get calories from somewhere. So if you lower your carbs, then your other ratios are going to have to adjust accordingly. Okay? So then that means your protein has to go up or your fat has to go up. And what I found, depending on where you get your source of protein from, and I'm not really going to speak to the vegetarian or the vegan side of things. That gets very confusing, to get protein sources. So we're just going to talk about meat types of protein. So animal-based proteins, primarily meat, fish, chicken, beef, pork, if you're into that sort of thing, so on and so forth. That when you start increasing that type of protein, your fats are going to go up. Even if you get lean cuts of meat, there's still going to be some fat in that meat. So if you lower your carbs and you're going to have to up those other ratios, you're going to see your proteins and fats go up. So to be honest, I really don't look so much at how many grams of protein do I have to have a day. I mean, how many grams of protein am I going to have? What I look at is I've determined that, like for instance, I need around 1,800 calories a day to lose a couple of pounds of weight a week. So then I take that, so it's 1,800 calories. Then I determine that since I'm going low carb, what percentage of my carbs make up that 1,800 calories. It ends up being around 20% where I like to keep it, which then ends up becoming 65 grams of carbs. So if I were, going to consume 1,000 calories a day at about 20% carbs, that number would go down because depending on the type of carb, you're going to end up with a certain amount of a caloric value. Same thing with protein. My protein right now is at about 50%. So 50% of my calories come from protein. And, that ends up being, depending on what I'm doing that day, like if I have all protein shakes, it might be 300 grams of protein. If I mix in some, whole foods like some chicken or some fish, it may go down. Again, I don't really worry about, am I getting, a pound, a gram of protein per pound of body weight. What I look at, again, is the ratios of the nutrients. And then, of course, the fat is the last part. It ends up being, somewhere around 30% of what I take in. So again, if you want my opinion on the matter, if it's of any value to you, look at your motivation. What are you trying to do? Gain weight, lose weight? Determine how you react to carbs, and what carbs with your situation, with what they do, and make a choice. Do I go low carb? Do I go moderate carb? Do I go high carb and low protein? My motivation is to build some muscle, and I know that protein helps build muscle, so that's my focus. And like I said, you've got to eat something. So I focus on the protein, and then the fats. It's not something I really worry about either. I'll have a scoop of peanut butter a day in my shakes just so I do get some fat, because you do need fat for the process in your body. You need to balance. I mean, you really need to balance what you do in life, how you exercise, and what you eat. It's a balance of all of those things. And what's working for me right now is keeping the carbs low, the protein very high, and my fat's moderate. And, you know, I feel incredible. Of course, I am supplementing with things like ECA or EC, you know, doing the ephedrine caffeine stack. But even before then, I just found when I had carbs, refined, complex or not, that I would get sleepy, lethargic. I mean, wanted to go take a nap. And when I started, you know, fueling my, you know, daily activities with nothing but protein, I just feel incredible. I really do. I really don't miss the carbs. Would I like a piece of bread? Absolutely. I would love a piece of bread. Do I miss my bowl of oatmeal in the morning? Absolutely. But even when I went back to just having that bowl of oatmeal in the morning, which is a complex carb, the weight started coming back on. Even though I go in and do HIIT sessions almost every day in the gym and burn anywhere from 500 to 700 calories in a session. I'm doing resistance training all the time. So again, if you want to really get into the seedy underbelly of nutrition, it obviously is more complex than just looking at calories in, calories out, even your ratios on macronutrients. It depends on what you eat and how your particular body metabolizes it. I think, you know, there's a lot of similarities between people, but there's a lot of differences too. We're all, you know, different to a certain extent. I mean, even in physiology and genetics, I think play a key role in that. So it's very hard to give someone cookie cutter advice on what they should do because everyone's different. I can tell you what works for me, and if you know, if you try it and it works for you, that's great. And so, you know, back to my advice to you is try the low carb thing. You know, you don't really have to do Atkins. You only have to do South Beach. Just keep it simple. You know, you don't have to go out and buy a whole ton of meat and stuff. I mean, just, you know, eat moderately. I've done the intermittent fasting, which works to a certain extent. I've also done eating 6 meals a day. I've done that for years, and you just got to find that balance. So, you know, how much protein do you really need? I don't know. I can tell you that I feel better when I consume larger amounts of protein. I feel that it supports my lifestyle. I feel that it supports my motivations and exercise and weight loss. I feel a lot fuller and just generally feel better. And again, like I'll stress again, your calories have to come from somewhere. So look at your motivation and decide, you know what works best, and give it some time. I know myself, I have a habit of very quickly getting bored with something, or if I don't see immediate results. I think we're all like that to a certain extent, looking for that magic bullet. I'll switch, go to a different protocol. And I've found myself now really giving myself 30, 60 days before I make a decision on whether or not something works. So my current protocol is the protein sparing modified fast, and I'm seeing some results. But I want to continue another 2 weeks on it and see what the end result is. And if it works, then I may continue that for several more months to get to where I want to be. This has become a long-winded video. I apologize, but hopefully there's some good information in this video. Like I mentioned, I'm going to link it to my other video where I kind of hinted around how much protein you really need, and hopefully this has been helpful for everyone. Thanks for watching.